Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is the full news on 4th March newspaper front page dawn. Court orders the proceedings against WADA over false affidavit. Lawmaker quits National Assembly seat after being elected senator. By Malik Asad, Islamabad, on the day Federal Minister for Water Resources, Faisal Wada, was elected senator and resigned from the National Assembly to avoid imminent disqualification. The Islamabad High Court (IHC) held him apparently responsible for submitting a false affidavit regarding his nationality and directed the Election Commission of Pakistan (ECP) to proceed against him under Article 61, Part 1F of the Constitution that deals with disqualification. Justice Amar Farooq, disposing of a petition seeking disqualification of Mr. Wada, held that if the ECP found Mr. Wada's affidavit false, he might face disqualification under Article 62, Part 1F and criminal proceedings under the Pakistan Penal Code. When the nomination papers of WADA were filed and or scrutinized, respondent number 1 was national of USA, hence had dual nationality and was disqualified to contest the elections in light of Article 63, Part 1C of the Constitution, Justice Farooq noted. Mr. Wada had contested the general election in 2018 from NA 249 west to Karachi on the ticket of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf and was declared successful on August 7 that year. The petition was filed in 2020 challenging his election as a member of the National Assembly on account of the fact that when Mr. Wada filed his nomination papers for contesting the elections, he held dual nationality as he was a United States citizen as well. The petition stated that since at the time of contesting the elections, Mr. Wada furnished an affidavit and to the ECP to the effect that he was not a national of any other country, he had made a false statement. On oath, hence he was disqualified under Article 62, Part 1F of the Constitution. Justice Farooq explained that inordinate delay in disposing of the petition was due to COVID-19 pandemic and delaying tactics adopted by Mr. Wada. The case was taken up initially on January 29, 2020, when notices were issued to Wada. Since due to COVID-19 pandemic, courts were not functional on a regular basis, the case was taken up in August 2020, when notice was repeated to respond number 1, Wada, as no one was in attendance on behalf of the referred respondent. In September 2020, our counsel appeared to represent Mr. Wada. The case was again taken up on October 14 that year, and since a reply had not been filed by Mr. Wada, the ECP was directed to bring record of its nomination papers. The court recalled that no one appeared on behalf of Mr. Wada on the said date. Instead, an application was filed asking the court not to entertain the petition since the matter was pending before the ECP. The counsel for Mr. Wada again absented on the next date, and when he appeared on a subsequent date, and the court inquired him about the record of His client's dual nationality, the lawyer sought time. When the case was again taken up on November 12, a new lawyer, Harun Dugal, appeared to represent Mr. Wada and sought permission to file fresh power of attorney and also a reply. The case was then fixed for January 14, 2021, when again a reply was not filed. However, an application was filed by one of the voters contestant of the elections on which a notice was issued. According to the court's observation, final opportunity was allowed to respondent number one, WADA, to file a reply. However, on March 3, yesterday, his counsel submitted that the instant petition had become infructuous since Mr. Wada had resigned from the National Assembly. On the other hand, the petitioner's counsel, Barrister Jahangir Khan Jadoon, argued that even if the resignation stood accepted, the petitioner was disqualified from becoming a member of the National Assembly or the Senate in light of the act that he had furnished a false affidavit. The court order started, it is observed with dismay that respondent number one, Wada, lingered on the matter but not filing a reply under one pretext or the other, which delayed the adjudication of the matter. Citing a judgment of the apex court on the issue of disqualification, the ISC judge stated that the Supreme Court had observed that failure to file an affidavit before the returning officer would render the nomination papers incomplete and liable to be rejected. Moreover, it was observed that if the affidavit or any part of it was found false, then it would have consequences as contemplated by the Constitution and law. The apex court further observed that since the affidavit was required to be filed in pursuance of the orders of this court, Supreme Court, if any false statement was made therein, it would also entail such penalty as was for filing a false affidavit before the Supreme Court. However, Justice Farooq observed that since Mr. Wada had already tendered resignation, a judicial verdict could not be issued against him at this point of time. However, the question of false affidavit still is pertinent. Supreme Court of Pakistan clearly observed that furnishing a false affidavit shall have consequences. In this behalf, prima facie, and affidavit is false. However, under Article 62, Part 1F of the Constitution, if someone is to be held as not being Sadiq and Tamim, a declaration has to be made to the effect by court of law, the IELTS order said. Moreover, the furnishing and tendering a false affidavit also has consequences under Pakistan Penal Code, the code observed. Referring to the pending complaint against Mr. Wada before the ECP, Justice Farooq held that since the affidavits were tendered before the Election Commission of Pakistan, it is just and proper that the Election Commission of Pakistan probes into the matter of veracity of affidavit, adding that if the affidavit was found to be false, it would be tantamount to submitting a false statement before the apex court. And in the end, the formal request, if you have not yet, please subscribe to the channel and press the like and bell button to get the press from us. Thank you for watching. Have a nice time. Goodbye.